course, will be on sale. This is your chance to buy the dream guitar, keyboard, drums, guitar effects, mic stands, guitar strings, guitar straps, drumsticks, guitar parts, guitar cables, the cajon that you're dreaming about, and other musical instruments. So I will see you December 11, December 12, Saturday, Sunday for the legendary 2-day Christmas sale. 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. 20% off. 1:01 p.m. to 4 p.m. 30% off. 4:01 p.m. to 8 p.m. 40% off. 8:01 p.m. to mall closing. 50% off. All the items in all 10 stores are on sale. Taylor Guitars, 10% off all day long. The sale extends to online sale through Shopee and Lazada, and the same time frame and discounts apply. Strictly no reservations. Cash, credit cards, PayMaya, home credit, and GCash are accepted. So get ready to have a beautiful and happy Christmas. Be there for the 2-day Christmas sale of RJ Guitar Center, December 11 and December 12. If you want to check out the items ahead, go to www.rjguitarcenter.com.
For DTI Fair Trade Permit number FTEB-130818, series of 2021.
You can now listen to RJFM and DZRJ 810 AM from wherever you are. Just type in RJ 100.3 FM on TuneIn Radio, Streama, Radio Garden, and just type in RJFM for online box radio. For DZRJ 810 AM, just type in DZRJ 810 AM on TuneIn Radio, Streama, and Radio Garden. Happy listening! You are watching the multi-awarded Radio Bandido TV on Channel 224 Sky Cable and TV Plus boxes. Simulcast on DZRJ 810 AM. Informing, advising, and entertaining the Filipinos and OFWs around the world. Streaming live on www.facebook.com/DZRJ 810 AM or on YouTube, channel RJAM News. To all Teleradio Bandido viewers and listeners, you can now watch Teleradio Bandido on our new YouTube channel, RJAM News. Hit the subscribe button and like the video. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified when a new video gets uploaded. Don't miss out on our dynamite lineup.
Hello and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJTV. My name is Eric Lecain and I'm joined as always with Lalie Tolentino. We are here on the radio and on TV and on Facebook and on YouTube and on TV Plus boxes to talk about stories going on around the world, to answer the questions that our viewers have sent in to us during the week. Lalie Tolentino, how was your week? Tell us all.
All right, let me start with saying that I got my booster last Monday. That's the thing.
You got your booster.
Yes.
The booster being a small seat that you wear, that you use at the dinner table to get you higher up so you can get closer to your food.
Yes.
Yes?
The booster.
Okay.
I got a Pfizer booster for my,
Okay, yes. I was thinking that mine was not the correct booster. Yes, this is the booster, the vaccine booster.
Yes.
Which they say is very important. I know people are like, why do I have to take the shot? Why do I have to get this shot? Shot number 1, shot number 2. But now they're saying that shot number 3 is actually very important as well. So, Lalie Tolentino, actually you are the only person I know that has got the booster.
Really? All right.
You are ahead of the curve.
To get their booster.
You're ahead of the crowd. I know. I need to get my booster. Actually, I probably need a booster seat today. But yeah, I need my booster as well. There's other stories besides the boosters that are going on this week that have caught my ear and caught my eye. In the Philippines, they play music. Sometimes when you get on the plane, they play that funky music when you get on the plane, when you're bored and you're leaving the plane. sometimes I get, because I fly a lot, and I fly on those Air Asia flights, and I've heard some real get down music. But you know what? That might not be happening anymore, because
Why is that?
the House of Representatives has approved a bill that says that you must play, by law, a Filipino song when the plane is landing and taking off.
Oh, really?
It must be a
Well-
Filipino song. 179 to 0. They really think this is
Really?
the way to go. It states that when the plane lands in the Philippines, that you must devote at least 50% of the tunes to cultural Filipino music. Of course, usually they only play one song on Filipino. They only play one song on Filipino planes. They just play it over and over and over again. So I guess that one song might be Filipino from now on. But they also that bill that says that tourist busts must play at least 50% of Filipino music. But here is what I found that's very interesting about this. If you don't play Filipino music, airlines that land without playing a Filipino song can be fined 300,000 pesos.
Wow, is this applicable to international airline or this is just a local?
I think this is for international airlines. It could be for local. I need to look into this. But the reason I think that it might be just for local, because it also says that bus operators will be fined 50,000 pesos every time that they don't play a Filipino song. And hotel, restaurants, and resorts also must play at least 50% Filipino music, or they will be fined 20,000 pesos if they don't comply. And the bill currently is on its way to the Senate. So, Lalie, Tolentino, they can't make people take a vaccine. They can't fix traffic. They can't deal with inflation, but they can make sure we listen to Filipino songs.
All right, you better study a Filipino song already, Eric, because,
I need to.
I don't know, are they trying to make the Philippines like a nationalistic type of country? Because,
No.
we are kind of westernized people, right?
I know.
So,
I know. I was. I love some of those tunes they play on Air Asia, but it kind of makes me feel like sometimes, like, that North Korean music. Like every time you see a picture of North Korea, it's always playing that same kind of North Korean song in the background. I don't know. That's what it reminds me of. But speaking of things like that, women. This is an interesting story that's going on here. I don't know why North Korea reminds me of this, but women can now keep their maiden name after they've been married. This is a new law that came out this week, I think. The House approved that women can keep their maiden name even after they're married.
well, did it say, we have not read it yet, is it mandatory or it's optional?
No. I mean,
do
you
you
can
think?
you can use your husband's name or you can use your name. 227 to 0. People said, hey, it's okay. So all
Yeah,
these
but
things
what-
going on,
Okay, if well, in my opinion, if I'm going to get married and I like the family of the guy, I will change my name, right? I mean, his family name, but if I don't like his family name, maybe I'll keep my name. Well, just a thought, but you never know. What if it's Lalie Kennedy? So I'll
the
take the
Lalie
Kennedy.
Tolentino. I was thinking that, if you married Bill Gates, I don't know, Lalie Gates, I don't know, I might keep Lalie Tolentino, but because Bill Gates is single now. Just letting you know, Lalie. Just but
All right.
yeah. So, but one thing, Lalie, I must say is if you marry a man these days, don't marry a man with the last name Omicron.
Definitely not.
Yeah, that would not be a
Doesn't
good idea.
sound
Then
good
in that
to
case,
me.
you want to keep your
It's
last
the
name.
virus.
Yeah, because right now you want to stay away from that name as far as possible. Why? Of course, as you're asking, as everybody probably knows, that is the all new and improved variant that's around, and it's called Omicron. Now, there's been some question about how you say the name, but just in case you wondered, Omicron, how it got its name, the variants are all named after the letters in the Greek alphabet: Alpha, Beta, Delta, Lambda. The next name was supposed to be Nu or Xi, but can you imagine if the new variant, someone calling what might be the most dangerous, most deadly variant of all, had the same name as the president of China? So they skipped it. They skipped his name. It's just, you know, an explosion of irony right there. That's they skipped his name because they didn't want to, you know, cause any problems with China. Of course, I wonder how you get that job. How do you get the job naming the variant? That'd be a fun job, wouldn't it? Could have the Lalie Tolentino variant. Could name you after a COVID variant. Would you like to be named after a COVID variant? Anyway, that variant is spreading over. It's spreading all over the world. They're saying that it originated in South Africa, but there's no proof of that. Just because there's a whole bunch of people there that have it. It's where it was first discovered. Actually, they think that it might have come from the Netherlands. But South Africa, they're the first ones that discovered it and told us about it. And they have been regretting that day every single minute, because now it's another reason to not let Africans into your country. So they're, you know, stopping South Africans. They're banning South Africans from traveling anywhere. So I guess if I ever discovered a new variant, Lalie, I would probably keep it to myself, because I don't want to risk getting banned from entering any place on the earth. I don't know. You know, is this version more deadly, more transmissible? You know, is it not affected by the vaccine? And the answer is, you know, we don't know. We don't know yet. We're finding out. It looks really bad. It looks like it's all the other variants all wrapped up into one. But I think right now South Africa has 77 cases and 19 cases in Botswana. So it's picking up in Africa. The Netherlands has a bunch of cases. UK has 22. Australia has 7. The US has 1 case, or they did on Thursday, but now it looks like there's 5 or 6 cases. You know, the Philippines has 0 that we know of.
Of course, we don't know yet. But,
yeah, we don't know.
Because they're working on those people who arrived from South Africa.
Yeah, I know.
I think they're monitoring them. So hope they don't have it, because, my God, we're having fun now. I mean, you know, we're open, and then all of a sudden, what if, you know, they shut down again? I hope not, Eric. I hope
shoot myself in the head. You know, we have 7 billion people on the planet. So relative right now, a small number of people have this variant. But experts are saying that it should, if things go the way that things have been going before, the way history looks like it will go, it should probably saturate the world in about 3 to 6 months. So, you know, the Philippines was just, you know, we were just about to open to international tourism. And now they're, you know, and now they're talking about bringing back the face shield. Man, I thought we were going to get rid of the mask. You know, what reminds me of this movie that I saw last week, and then we'll go on. But these guys that were climbing Mount Everest, and they got right to the top, and right till they got to the top of Mount Everest, a storm broke out. They were like 100 meters away, and then a big storm broke out, and they had to turn around. So they almost got to the top. They were right at the top, and then all of a sudden a big storm came, and then they had to turn around and go back. So this kind of reminds me of what's going on right now in the Philippines, because we were so close. We were right to the edge. Everything was going so well.
Yeah.
The cases are down and everything, and now we're back to bed. So anyway, Lalie Tolentino, let me know, what are our viewers, what are they thinking about this week? What's on their mind?
All right. We always have some controversial story here. I mean, question, and you know, they want your answer, Eric, your opinion in every question.
Yes.
All right, so let's go to the first question from Jean of Manila. CNN suspended Chris Como indefinitely because of brother former New York City mayor case called the greater involvement in sexual misconduct. What's the real deal here?
All right.
What's the latest?
So, you know, the older brother is out, and now the younger brother's on the chopping block. So the older brother, in case you don't know, he was one of the most outspoken governors during the COVID outbreak in the U.S. He was all over television. Andrew Cuomo. He stood up to Trump, took matters into his own hands, became the hero of New York for helping and stopping the COVID virus. And then he was pushed out because a woman said that he made her feel uncomfortable. He continued to deny any wrongdoing, and continually pointed out that there's no proof of this. But supposedly when he hugs you and his hands drop down a little too far. Okay. I mean, let's not confuse this with Donald Trump or Bill Cosby or Harry Weinstein. These guys are they're accused of, rape, forcing themselves on women. This is not that. Cuomo was, the governor of New York, was accused of making certain women feel uncomfortable. So, he had to resign. So when you're in the middle of something like that, who do you usually turn to? You turn to your family. And it just so happens that Andrew's brother, Chris Cuomo, is one of the most watched news programs in American television. And he advised his brother on the situation. And the rule is at CNN, you're not supposed to give advice or use your status to help someone in a major news story if you are personally involved in some way with that person. So, okay, let me just say, on Chris's own show, he said that he, helped advise his brother's people. And so anyway, now that woman who accused his brother is now saying that CNN should fire him. And so CNN has been forced to suspend Chris Cuomo. Because he gave some advice to his brother's people.
Wow. That's pretty tough because, if I am the situation of like Chris, of course I will help my brother. I mean, this is the thing, you run to your family, but then without knowing, I mean, I personally don't know that there's such thing in, in the media outfit that they can, you should not help your brother, whatever reason.
I mean, look what they do on Fox. I mean, talk about, integrity. But anyway, so CNN's going to stick to the rules. But, the thing was, it's not like Chris Cuomo hid it. He came out and said, hey, listen, he didn't want to talk about it on the show, but he said, listen, it's family first, job second. So, I mean, if you want to investigate him, fine. I don't see the actions of Chris Cuomo rising to the level of things I've seen commentators do on other news shows. Sometimes, I mean, I've seen much, much worse than, trying to help your brother out in a problem that he has. So I was a little surprised that CNN did this, but I think it came down to the woman who accused the brother, who said, you should fire him. And so they felt pressure to fire him. And like, the Democrats have done in the past, when there's any kind of, problem with any kind of possible sexual harassment, they're always forcing their people out. Whereas I'm surprised because the Republicans can, Brett Kavanaugh supposedly, might have raped a woman and he became the Supreme Court justice. There's a lot of, I see one side and then the other. So I don't want to get into this whole mess of what the conservatives do versus what the liberals do. But I'm just saying that, in my opinion, I think that we should give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that, it's your family. Okay, if you helped your brother out and you said that you helped your brother out on national television, I don't know, I think they ought to give him a pass on this.
All right. Okay. So, well, too bad for Chris. I know he's doing good with what he's doing, but then, like you said, family first, then work.
I mean, Chris Cuomo has one of the most watched shows on television, on the news. And I know a lot of people don't like him because he was very outspoken against Trump. He was. I mean, he came out every night and just, lambasted. He told the truth, because CNN, if you, it's not like Fox. If you tell something that's not true, they'll jump all over it, and then you'll have to come in and retract it. So, I mean, I've watched his show. It's pretty good, and it's not like he's making up stuff. So, he really gets to the point, and he brings on hard people to interview. So I'm just surprised that they would go to these lengths, but they're investigating it. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, hopefully maybe in the future he will be back and taken back by the CNN. For now, in the meantime, Chris, take a live. That's okay. Now let's go to Gino Pasic. Aside from other countries, Omicron is already in US. How do you think will Americans respond to this, since they are still number one in the world?
Number one in the world of what? Well, right now, the United States is changing the rules on who can come into the country. I mean, they're trying to balance it right now. Biden came out and said they're going to tighten the rules, everyone coming into the country. And so, I mean, the U.S. has enough problems with people not getting the vaccine. You know, right now they're really trying to get people to take the first shot, and then the third shot. So, they have their issues right now. Anyway, there's just a few cases, but of course, no one knows for sure how this is spreading around. The guy that they found in, Michigan or Minnesota, turns out he had just gone to New York City. He went to the anime convention, walked around with the Omicron virus. So who knows who has it now. So, but right now everyone's basically sitting on pins and needles waiting to see what the scientists, if they can figure out what this thing is, because it's packed full of multiple mutations. So this combination of mutations, is it going to make it more transmissible? Is it going to be more deadly than the other viruses? Or the other variants? And the big one, is it going to be resistant to the vaccine? Those are the big three questions that we're just waiting on. So it's going to take weeks. It's going to take weeks before they know the right answer. I mean, right now the U.S. has 60% are vaccinated and 20% have the third shot booster. So President Biden came out and he said, hey, you know what? This is a cause for concern, but it's not a cause for panic. The United States has the best scientists, the best medicine, the best research lab. There's unlimited resources to figure this out. So hopefully they can figure, Dr. Fauci came on TV and he said, if you take that third shot, like, ladies and gentlemen, Lalie Tolentino did, that will increase your B cells and your T cells. And that's the best line of defense against the virus. He said this new virus has something like 50 different mutations, and more than 30 of them are as a result of the spike protein, which we talked about the spike protein here on the show before, about how the virus attaches itself to the human cells and how it all works, whatever. And if that's true, that could be really bad. But like I said, we don't know yet. But we will.
Yeah, that's why. Again, I will encourage all people watching and listening to us, take your vaccine. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is go to your whatever site or, your barangay, ask them where you're going to get your vaccine. In case you do not know yet, nothing to lose, just be careful. I still want to live longer, And I want to reach 100 years old.
Yeah, and I want to tell people out there, listen to our show. Because I've been following the anti-vaxxers and the COVID deniers this week, and they have already come out and said, without knowing anything yet about anything, that the Omicron is a trick by the Democrats just to distract you. They said that the whole Omicron is just a hoax made up by the leftist liberals. They're calling it's not a variant, it's a scariant. That's the new word. And of course, Lalie, if you scramble the letters of Omicron, it spells moronic. Now the question is, who's moronic here? Is it us? Is it the anti-vaxxers? I would think, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it's the anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Get your shot.
Yes, get your shot. Remember, I will have to say this. I took Sinovac, right? And then my booster is Pfizer, so.
You can mix them up. I don't think it's going to hurt you. Stir the pot a little. Stir the pot. Add a little extra, Pfizer in there. It's okay.
Okay. Eric, ask me again, what's the effect of the Pfizer to me?
So, Lalie Tolentino, of that third shot, what was the effect it had on you?
As usual, I got hungry after.
You got hungry? So
yes.
If you get the vaccine, make sure you get it next to I was going to say Jollibee or McDonald's, but then you're going to die from something else. Yeah, I need to shut up here.
Anyway,
let's get in trouble. All right,
let's go to Rene of Alabang. What does it mean when the former Japanese Prime Minister tells China, Taiwan emergency is a Japanese emergency.
All right. Well, this
What's
story
your
got
take
some
on
range this week. When the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said if China decides to make a play for Taiwan, which is looking more and more likely like they're going to do, that Japan and the U.S. will step in and intervene. And I mean, China's claiming certain islands there, on near Taiwan. And Taiwan has always thought, these islands kind of belong to us because they're like right next to us. They're like 100 kilometers away. So, they're saying, come on, China, stop it. So that's what I think Japan is finally, because it looks like something's coming. And, if China keeps flying around so close to China, there's a chance that this whole thing could become a big mess. And we've said this before on the show, that maybe a misunderstanding between a boat or a plane, maybe a simple accident, might be mistaken as an act of war. And Japan is saying if that happens, Japan will protect itself and it will protect Taiwan, and then the U.S. will step in and help protect Taiwan. Japan hosts a base in Okinawa still. That's not very far from Taiwan. So the United States can be there, lickety split. So the United States has come out and said that if China were to attack, they have no choice, but they will retaliate for Taiwan. And, the primary reason why China has not gone ahead and done, a rear naked choke, Hong Kong style choke on Taiwan's neck is because of the United States is sitting right there just waiting for something to happen. And they keep buzzing those planes and running their ships right up to the border. And people in Taiwan, they have their finger on the trigger. And this is what worries everybody. Taiwan used to be Japan. It used to be part of Japan. And Japan had to return it after the U.S., dropped those nuclear bombs on Japan. But anyway, so that's part of the deal. China gave Taiwan back to China, that China had it before in the previous war. However, Taiwan is its own state.
Okay. Let's see.
I mean, in China's eyes, Taiwan is part of China. Let me just reiterate that. But Taiwan calls itself its own, democracy. And Japan is going to stand by that democracy, and so is the United States. And if somebody makes an accident and accidentally, pulls the trigger on one of those boats, and a bullet flies a mile, which it can, a mile from one boat to the other, and hits somebody, all out war could take place.
All right. I don't want to go to Taiwan. Anyway,
just get things that are made
Mona.
in Taiwan.
From KSA, this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. As per news, Taliban executed dozen members of Afghan security forces after they surrendered. They are cruel, heartless people. Why do they exist?
Yeah, I mean the Afghan military, they laid down their weapons and the Taliban shot them anyway. So bad has always existed in the world. People have said throughout time that there can't be a heaven without a hell. And I mean, these Arabic countries have been fighting each other forever. I mean, why does a ruthless government such as the Taliban exist? Part of the reason is, I remember that line in the movie, what was it? Predator versus Alien. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And people who are enemies of the United States will prop up the Taliban. They hate them. They hate the Taliban, but they also don't like the United States. And I mean, how does a warlord type government amass so much money and so many weapons? I mean, and the bigger question is, why does the world let them do this? The U.S. went in Afghanistan and basically kicked out the Taliban. It used, the United States has big guns and they have pockets full of cash, and they rebuilt the entire government, and tons of weaponry went there, and $88 billion. But the problem is, as we have seen in countries like, I don't know, even the Philippines, sometimes people don't care about their own country. They care about how much they can get for me. What can I get for myself? If the U.S. is giving me millions and millions, and telling me to spend it on good things for the country, why don't I just keep it? So all the time that the U.S. spent building of the country, the guys in the country were greedy and corrupt officials. And in the end, they took the money and they ran. And then the Taliban just walked in and took over. And many think that when the U.S. pulled out the Taliban, they made money deals with the Afghan government that the United States had just put there. And the deal is, you can leave with your life and as much cash as you can stuff on an airplane, but if you don't, we will kill you. So what are you going to do? And so, the Taliban wants to seem legit. They want to see like a legitimate government. So they said, once we take over, we're not going to kill everybody. We're going to just let bygones be bygones. You believe the Taliban? The history that they have for telling the truth is 1%.
Yeah.
So of course they left. What did they do? They executed all those guys.
Yeah, poor people. Poor Afghan. Well, anyway, it's hard to trust sometimes.
Nobody wanted the Taliban back in. Nobody. NATO, the European allies, the United States, the Afghan people don't want them there. But there they are. The world has given them a new lease on one of the cruelest, most violent regimes in modern times. And the problem that you're going to have, and I'm going to say this now, is now that the Taliban is in there, who are the Taliban's friends? Who are they going to bring in? Who are these foreign fighters that they're going to bring in? The Taliban can say, hey, we promise we're going to do this all they want. However, the Taliban is a bunch of groups, and a bunch of groups, each one has their own leader. And one leader says, hey, I didn't say that. I didn't say I wasn't going to kill these people, so I'm going to kill them. I didn't say I wasn't going to bring in all these foreign fighters from all these places that are going to start new terrorist organizations within Afghanistan. That's not me. That's those guys. So there's so many different factions in the Taliban. Who do you trust? It's not like a regular standardized government. It's based on like warlord type governments. So this is the issue. This is the problem with the Taliban. And, why do they exist? That's a good question.
Well, I don't know. Do you know?
Anyway. They exist because we let them exist. We don't have to let them exist.
Okay, let's now.
Put me in charge of the world.
Let's exit with that question.
Put me and Lalie Tolentino in charge of the world. We'll fix it.
Yes. All right, let's. Your favorite guy, Ren of Santa Rosa, Laguna.
We love Ren.
This is his question this week. Which one would last longer, the fall of Erdogan or the fall of Turkish lira? And why do you think so?
All right, well, let's start.
Give you a tough question.
This is it's an interesting thing. Let's go back to August. The lira was 8.5 to the dollar, which is that's its normal range. But then the value started to fall. So when a currency begins to fall, inflation builds up. The government will balance things by raising interest rates. Okay, we've actually analyzed this on the show before with other places such as the Philippines, but not the president of Turkey, Erdogan. No, he doesn't want to raise interest rates. Somehow he thinks that if he does that, it's going to raise inflation in the country by doing that. So, local experts and economic experts all over are saying this is crazy. We need to change the course of the currency or it's going to drop to 10 or 11 or 12 to the dollar. Well, this week, the Turkish lira is 13.47 to the dollar, just like we said it was going to be. Not me personally, but anyway. So now, usually the banks can manipulate a currency on themselves, but Erdogan is the president, and he also put himself in charge of the bank. So he fired the last 3 bank chiefs there because they wouldn't fall in line with his concept of how banking should work because of this. Because right now their currency is going through the floor. So any growth that Turkey may have in the near future is not going to make any difference because the lira is going to be worthless. So right now inflation hit the 20% mark, and the Turkish central bank, the head of markets of the central bank in Turkey just resigned. because, they don't want to be part of this. So Erdogan says that he knows how to go, and he's not paying any attention to the clamor of what he calls the doomsayers. But what he's doing here now, if you look at it on a spreadsheet, on a piece of paper, it could go incredibly wrong. It could ruin Turkey for years. I mean, I know you're not going to like me bringing this up, but if you look back to the Philippines and how the currency fell and never recovered, and investors become afraid. That's part of why the Philippines had such a low for so long. The Philippines was 3.9 pesos in 1969. And then in the 1980s, it had lost 4 times its value. And what happened? It was never able to recover. It was spinning out of control. And it had some jumps in what was 2011. The peso jumped. Remember when it jumped and went down? It went down into the 40s, even to the 30s. But then in the last couple of years, it's bounced back into the 50 to the dollar range and hasn't left. And so Erdogan should be looking at that as an example of how a currency can be, very strong, very powerful, and then, do one thing wrong, and then it's messed up for the next 30 years.
Okay.
I was throwing that softball at you, Lalie, to see if you would make a comment. Lalie's like, nope. Next question.
All right, let's go to GB of Makati. According to Bureau of Treasury, the outstanding Philippines debt rose to 11.97 trillion pesos as of end October. How can we pay that, and what do you think the government should do?
Well, this is a OMG question. OMG, the national debt is more money than the Philippines could even take in. The question, I guess, everybody keeps asking me the same question. Are we borrowing too much money from China? And if we don't pay China back, will China take over the country? And do Filipinos need to start learning to speak Chinese? All right. Anyway, here we go back into history again. And we have to go back and look at it. We have to go back and look at history of the Philippines. Just as an example, because this is not the same. I mean, President Marcos borrowed tons and tons of money, and the economy, it completely collapsed. Is that going to happen now? Well, there's a big difference now. I mean, this is the question. I mean, of course, this is the question people ask. The Philippines is borrowing record amounts of cash, just like they did, long time ago. The national debt went up like 24 times its normal thing back in that time. But the big difference is now, the money, he diverted the money outside the country, and that's not what's happening now. Duterte is not stealing the money. He's borrowing it. He's borrowing a lot of money. So where is Duterte borrowing all this money from? And the question to me is it China? And the answer is the Philippines is not really, the Philippines has a lot of debt with China. It has debt that it can never pay China back. But the Philippines is borrowing most of its money from itself. 71% of the debt in the country holds right now of this 12 trillion pesos is from the Philippines. 29% is from outside, and a lot of it's from China, and that's a lot. But the bulk of it is coming from within the country. So when the government pays back its loans, it pays the loans back to the Filipino people, and that money stays within the economy. This is the big difference now. And here we can see the difference between Marcos and the Aquinos and President Duterte, and how they dealt with the debt that the Filipino people have. And most people believe, and Lalie, you can answer this to me. Most people believe that when the country's debt goes up, that must mean corruption, that there's corruption going on. The money's being borrowed, it's not being used for what it's intended to, and it's just being stolen, and we're just keep paying for it, and then the politicians, then they leave out of office, and then we're stuck with all this debt. And of course, the big example, okay, well, all right, that did happen in the 80s, but a debt, by some accounts, can still be paid now. or the Philippines has recovered, a lot of what it has built up in debt over the years. However, recently there was this problem in the Philippines, and it's called COVID, and that's caused a lot of this debt because there's no money coming in, there's only money going out. And so the economists here say that they have a handle on it. They know how to circulate the debt. And this is going to be a big issue in the Philippines because of inflation. Because is the amount of money that you make per day going to match the amount of a bag of rice? How much is rice going to cost? But they believe now, the Philippines can't pay back 12 trillion pesos. They can't. So they're going to circulate the debt. And we can get into that, but I need the whole show to do it. I'm trying to figure out right now, as I'm talking right now, how can I explain this so it makes sense? But yeah, it's scary. It's very scary. And how is the Philippines going to come out of the COVID situation and the incredible amounts of money that they have borrowed?
And the thing is here is that we know what happened because of start with COVID. Okay, forget about the debts before, because it's no matter what, we will always borrow money from outside because we are, like you said, we are not rich countries, so we need help.
Yeah,
and whoever's the president, because this is the thing people should understand. All right, no matter what happened, especially there's a pandemic, there's so many things happen, and last year we've been talking about we need to borrow because we need to buy this, the vaccine, blah blah blah, and people always
you don't
think
have to buy the vaccine.
This will go to corruption.
Vaccine was mostly given to you, but there's other issues.
Used to have, but part of it they need to borrow, but there are more to that, and like you said, we need the whole show to explain this to people, and I don't think we don't need to explain that much to people. Basically, they understand. The only thing that we can do is that we cannot do anything right now, because no matter what, whoever will be the president next time, and they will continue borrowing. I don't know. I hope not, but it will be part of it. Every country borrow money from whatever, but then the president now, Duterte, is borrowed a lot of this money from China because their BFF, maybe they had a very easy talk, like, "Hey, Mr. President, we need this money."
Okay, that's not why China loaned Duterte the money. China doesn't loan money to countries because they're friends with you. They loan countries with you because they want something. And this, I'm not saying this is an opinion. This is something that I've read over and over and over again, why the China decided to loan. Japan also loaned money to the Philippines, but China did own a lot of money, and Duterte decided to go lean more toward China than he did the United States. And people are worried about that the Philippines borrowed so much money, and now when China comes to reclaim its debt, what is it going to reclaim? But I just wanted to point out that the entire amount of the international debt in the Philippines is 29%. It's only 29%. The rest of the money comes from you, which, if you think about it that way, it starts to make a little bit more sense, like, okay, how they're going to do it. Because, if you buy a car, Lalie, if you spend $1 million pesos on a car and you got 5-year loan, but you realize that you lost your biggest source of income, that you can't pay your loan, so you borrow more money to pay back the loan of the money that you borrowed to pay back to buy the car, and then the second loan, and then you have clever refinancing, so you have to get a third loan. The problem is, if you can't pay back your $1 million pesos, Lalie, you're in trouble. But if you borrowed 11 trillion pesos and you can't pay it back, then your country is in trouble. And this is what people are worried about. It's like, because if you look at the amount of money that was borrowed from the previous administration versus the amount of money that was borrowed in this administration, it is a giant gap between how much debt the Philippines held before and how much debt the Philippines owes now. And so I think that's what worries people.
Yeah, and not only that, that's why the next president, because we will all be left by this debt. So whoever will be the next president of the country, he's going to have a lot of problem, because this is something that is not easy to solve. And that's why, I don't understand why people, they want to be president. They don't know what they're gonna get into. The trouble of solving big problem like this
Yeah, I know.
Okay, let's. This is not an easy thing. They think they can, because I'm popular, I can solve this problem. No, man, it's not that easy.
No, you need to come
Anyway.
in and pay the Philippine debts. So we only need presidents that have $12 trillion. Anyway, 12 trillion pesos rather. $12 trillion. Ooh, that'd be a lot. Anyway, what else is going on in there?
All right, let's go to Ellen. Yeah, there's a lot. Ellen Mandaluyong. Senator Go withdraw from presidential race, but some people said they will still convince him to run. Your thoughts?
All right. First of all, Go was not supposed to run for president. Sarah was supposed to run for president, but Bong Bong didn't allow that, or whatever happened, and Go, who just seems like another pawn in the chess match between the Marcoses and the Dutertes, was really stuck in the middle, like others that realized, I think he realized, hey, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. This is not how it was supposed to go. This was not the plan that I agreed to. Now, here again, this is me talking. Go had really very little political clout, except with Duterte, just like Sarah. You think Sarah would be polling at the top if it wasn't for her father? No, it's for him. You think Bong Bong, savvy political mind, is the reason that he's polling well? No, it's because of his father. And I feel, somewhat bad for these guys like Go and De La Rosa. They were used to help these two kids, who had famous fathers, get ahead. And, he's not a presidential candidate. He was never supposed to be a presidential candidate. It's just that Marcos didn't go along with the plan. And as I've heard, and, Go, this is like, again, these are things that I've heard, that I've watched on TV. Go was supposed to, he's in a spot, he ended up getting thrust into a spot that he was not supposed to be in. And then all of a sudden he got a hit with a dose of reality and said, oh my goodness, I'm not supposed to be running for president. And the good thing about Mr. Go was he was very smart enough to realize that I'm in the wrong line. And he backed out. And he said, I need to get out of this room. And he went home. And, you're saying, they're going to convince him to run. Who's trying to convince him to run? I mean, who's got a caravan ready for him? Who's got a colored shirt for him? He's not here because he's an amazing candidate. He's here because of Duterte. Just like Sarah, it's Duterte. He's the guy. None of these characters would even be on TV if it wasn't for Duterte. I have to say, I think that Mr. Go all of a sudden realized the situation that he didn't even want to be in the first place. And then he found himself in it, and he did the smart thing, because if he stayed in, I don't think it would be good for her. And I think that is the whole point of him being there in the first place, is for Sarah.
All right. Well, my take on that is that Senator Go is the smartest presidential candidate for now. That's what
I don't disagree with you, by the way.
And I agree with him. If you're not ready, you're put on the spot by, this is good if you're just a barangay captain. You're running for barangay. You're not.
No, this is the president.
A tough job in case,
it's a very difficult. This takes a certain kind of personality. Being the president of the Philippines takes a certain kind of personality. And I know Mr. Duterte wanted him to win, but they both realized that, this could go really badly. This could cause other repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
And then, somebody that we don't want to get into the presidency may win, because we still don't know what the story's going to be.
All right, let's go to Virgil, Quezon City. Do you think Philippines should stop the foreign and Filipinos from entering the country, since Omicron is all over now?
Oh my goodness. I think Lalie knows what I'm going to say here.
Yes.
Yes. The answer is no, of course. I'm going to say that. You well know, you know me. I don't think that they should have ever stopped foreigners from coming in. They should have just had strict quarantine procedures. The Philippines is an island. You can't drive across the border. The wind cannot blow this virus, 100 miles across the ocean. So it needs to have a host to transmit the virus. It needs a person to get the virus in. You who has the virus, and you come in and you cough on somebody who doesn't have the virus. or, you know, you touch the surface within 2 minutes after the person put their fingers in the mouth, something like that. Anyway, so how did the virus get in the country in the first place? How is it getting to the country? It flew in on an airplane inside of a person. Now, if the virus is in you for 14 days, okay, that's what you need. You need 14 days for the virus to be in and out. So it usually takes 5 days, and then the symptoms show up. So if everyone's flying in on a plane and everybody followed the proper quarantine procedure, would the virus have spread, Lalie Tolentino? Logically, no, it wouldn't have. If the Philippines followed the proper protocols that the Philippine government set for the virus, which were pretty strict, it would not be in the Philippines. So then you wouldn't need to lock down the country and kill your economy. Okay, so if you don't want the Omicron variant, you know, guide everyone on the plane into a quarantine facility. There's no reason to overcomplicate it or sit around in the airport for 3 hours like I did in a crowd of people waiting for other passengers to see where they're going to go. Getting people to get on the honor system that they will go to the correct hotel in the taxi. You know, if you fly here, you need to adhere to the rules that they set. And so this is part of the problem of what the Philippines has had over these last 2 years with people coming in. This is how the virus got here. It didn't sprout here. It came here from foreigners coming in on airplanes. Okay, Lalie, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, okay, the Philippines has already, you know, system in place. So whether you like it, you love the system, we have the system and it works. Why did I say that? Because now, for almost 2 years now, the total cases in the Philippines is less than 3 million. How many deaths that we have? Less than 50,000. In the US, 50,000 is just how many days died. And, you know, this is like a basic things for me to people should understand, because, you know, like you said, you know, because it's the people coming from outside that brings the virus, not what do you call this? Not the people from within the country. So I think we're doing the right thing.
Unless the virus started here, which it didn't.
Yeah, no,
So,
it just spread like fire. Because some people, and you know, the good thing is that we are, what do you call this? Especially now, we're kind of vigilant and a lot because there's a lot of people vaccinated already. At least, you know. Yesterday, the cases was only 570 and stuff.
I know. I mean, the cases are, all these places are getting, 0 cases in this place, 0 cases in that place.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that, if you want to stop the Omicron, really, you don't have to lock down the country again. You just need to make sure when somebody gets off a plane, they're guided into their quarantine facility or they're taken to their quarantine facility and they're made to stay there. And they got to wait 14 days. That would solve all the problems, wouldn't it? I think the lax system, the Philippines had a pretty good system in place. However, it just didn't work. And they let people pay money to just go home. A whole bunch of things happened here. A lot of crazy stories about how people were able to get out of the quarantine. So I think that's the reason why. I think, you can stop people from coming in, you can stop tourism. But if they just made people sit for 14 days, problem would be solved. Don't you think, logically?
Well, for me, we have the protocol, just follow it, it will be okay.
I know, but we don't. We should do like North Korea. If you get the virus, we just shoot you in the head. No, I'm just kidding.
We don't want to have problem with with our
That's
viewers
why North
there.
Korea
Okay,
has
let's
no
go.
cases. North Korea has no cases because they
Okay.
shoot you if you get it.
Okay, let's
That's what
go
I heard.
to
That's
Pastor
what I heard.
Ed of Pasig. Pastor Ed, when Senator Bongo withdrawing from the presidential race, do you think President Duterte's endorsement of an opposition candidate can be a threat to the BBM Sara tandem being frontliner in the race? That is just a
No,
question.
not really. It's pretty obvious that Duterte doesn't care much for Bong Bong. Of course, a lot of people believe, and here again, Lalie Tolentino, they believe that there was a deal made in which a Bong Bong agreed and then screwed Duterte, which is why Duterte is so mad now. That's just what I heard. We may never know the real story of that, and we may argue about that forever, Lalie. But I think that's part of the reason why Duterte called him a weak leader, and then whole thing with the somebody's taken cocaine remark. But I think, the only real damage would be to them if Duterte decides to endorse Isko Moreno. I think if he endorses that candidate, and I've heard multiple people say this week that, they see him as president and Sarah as vice president, and people could swallow that. That's something that the country could swallow. And Duterte is a smart dude. He knows this. So that's why he's kind of playing both sides of this coin. If Bong Bong, wins, there's a great number of people in the Philippines that are not going to get behind him ever. And I mean, when Duterte won, when Duterte won, a lot of people didn't like Duterte, but everybody stood by him as president. I mean, they did. I mean, I have to say, Duterte got the country to stand behind him, whether you liked him or not. Bong Bong does not have that kind of ability, and he never will. He will never get unity in this country. He will never have it. Did you say you agree or you disagree?
No, I disagree on that.
Okay. So, I mean,
with the Bong Bong will, he has a lot of people.
Yeah, he has a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people like him. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people did like Duterte. A lot of people didn't like Duterte. However, Duterte got the people who didn't like him to like him finally. I don't believe Bong Bong will ever be able to do that. He will never. He doesn't have that kind of personality. He doesn't have that pizzazz like Duterte does.
He does.
He doesn't. Have you ever watched him speak? He doesn't. No, he's not a likable candidate.
Well,
I don't care either way, but I'm just saying.
Anyway. There are some people who are not a good speaker. We know that. Maybe Bong is not like that. But
yeah, that's what makes Duterte Duterte. I mean, that's why he's so popular, is because of the way he talks and his charisma. That's how that's how Donald Trump was able to get the freaking presidency. You think that do you believe that Bong Bong is going to get those people who went through what they went through with their family, what their families went through, are ever going to like him? Well, no, they are never going to like him. They're going to do everything they can up until the day.
Doesn't like them will not like them at all. I agree.
Yeah, that is the difference between him and Duterte. He will never get the country to unify, ever. I don't believe.
No, I don't. I will disagree on that. He is the only one who can unify again the country, because
the whole world is looking at the Philippines and laughing at the fact that you're one of the most corrupt dictators in the history of the world. His son is now going to be the president of the Philippines. You don't think the world is laughing at this?
So what if they laugh?
That's the problem in the Philippines. So what if they laugh? We need to, that's something that you need to. You have a candidate that no one respects. So
yeah, we will. Okay, we will respect whoever will be voted in. I mean, who will be the president. Okay, whether, like I said before, I did not vote for Duterte. Okay, so what did I do? I'm just speaking for myself. All right, whoever will be the president will just respect that. And now Filipinos we are like that. We are not like the Americans. Like, no. Filipinos just talk, but then at the end of the day, we just follow. Okay.
Yeah, this is what I don't think is going to happen. This is what happened with Duterte. A lot of people didn't vote for him. And then they ended up backing him anyway. And this is what, that's
how it is in politics.
Yeah, I think when this comes, if Bong Bong were to win the thing, now this is going on, just what I hear, I study these things. I don't think he has that ability to unify this country the way that Duterte did, because of the incredible history that is going to follow him throughout his entire presidency.
Not in the mind of Filipinos. Filipinos are.
Are you kidding me? Have you been reading the newspapers, Lalie Tolentino?
I do. I'm a Filipino. I know
never again.
Like
never again. They're holding up their signs.
Well, you know what? Okay, whoever can unify the country, right? I'm for it, because we're actually we are really divided before, but then we just keep quiet, because Filipinos, we're not that violent people. Who are the people who are who are the violent people?
You're considered the fifth most violent country in the world. You're considered the fifth most violent country in the world. The last 4 years of the Philippines is known as the most murderous country in Southeast Asia. So what do you mean that we're not a violent people? I mean, I'm just telling you.
No. I mean, you are just talking about those people who are on the left, but not the real people here.
The politicians kill each
We're
other
quiet
here.
people.
They kill the reporters for the newspapers. I mean, to talk about a nonviolent place. Duterte was talking through his whole first 2 years about, go ahead, kill me. Go ahead, kill me.
Okay, yeah, those are just I would say not so many of that is happening. Not so many. I mean, maybe they would say one of those cases, but we don't. After a while, we just have to forget everything, because if you are not, we cannot move forward. We will just always look back of the history.
You have the record for killing the most reporters in a.
Right.
I mean, the politician down in Mindanao, they went down, they killed them all. They drug them out and shot him in the back of the head. What do you mean? Going into the election, this next coming election, Lalie Tolentino, do you think that there's not any politicians that aren't going to get killed? Do you think that there? Do you think in the Philippines?
Well, you know what? In politics, it's always been part of the politics in the Philippines. I don't care about the other world, but it happens all the time. Whether there's election or not, there's violence here. But I'm not going to.
No, but I'm saying politicians getting killed because they're running against another politician. I mean, look back at the 80s.
It's given already. It's given.
Your president there had a bunch of people killed because they didn't like him.
That's why if you're going to run as president, or not even just a local barangay, these people get killed. I know the people who get killed with the low position only.
Yeah, Ferdinand Marcos killed how many people because they were against his administration?
He's not the one who killed it. It's his people. I don't want to accuse people who did not have, I can only say you killed because you killed. But if it is not you who did it, I will not accuse you of killing somebody.
Okay, I do not agree with that, because if I order someone to kill, my neighbor, I think it's just as much my fault as it is their fault. I mean, I go and I get some guy to go kill my neighbor because I want his piece of land. So is it not my fault? I think it's partly my fault. If the president tells his people to go kill that guy because he's reporting something bad about him, I think it's partly the president's fault.
No, because if you're the leader, you'll always be blamed. Whether it's you have hand on it or none, you will always be blamed.
Especially because if the person who killed said, yeah, the president told me to do it. But Lalie Tolentino, besides killing people and all these things that we're talking about, we're actually going to have to kill our show very soon because we're out of time.
As usual.
I was trying to figure out how I was going to segue out of the show. Anyway, but I mean, this was a great conversation. Now, Lalie, I know we had some other questions that we need to get to, which we will get to. We will read them on the next show. So we don't want to leave anybody out. But for me, Eric Lecain, here on the World News Jam on DZRJ, and the wonderful Lalie Tolentino, we will be back again next week. So please join us then. In the meantime, do what Lalie Tolentino says, get your vaccination, and everybody be careful out there, and we'll see you next week.
The views and